When it comes to figuring out how a man feels about you through texting, the first and clearest signal is his consistency. And no, this isn't about whether he sends you 10 messages a day or writes you long paragraphs like he's composing a novel. It's about whether he shows up regularly in your life in the same way over time, because how a man texts isn't just about the words he uses. It's about the pattern he creates. Consistency tells you where you stand without you having to ask. Think about it. A guy who's genuinely interested doesn't just disappear for days and then pop back up when it's convenient. He doesn't vanish after a great conversation only to reappear weeks later like nothing happened. That kind of hot and cold behavior is a reflection of where his mind is at. Inconsistency usually means confusion, lack of priority, or sometimes just keeping you as an option rather than a priority. And you deserve better than being someone's maybe. When a man is consistent, it shows that he's emotionally reliable. His actions don't swing wildly based on his mood or what else is going on in his life. He texts you after a good day and he checks in when things are stressful. He doesn't let silence stretch on for days because, to him, staying connected matters. You're part of his world, not an afterthought. And that consistency builds trust. It allows you to relax because you're not stuck wondering, did I say something wrong? Did he lose interest? You don't have to obsess over decoding each message because the pattern is clear. He's there, he's showing up. He's making an effort, not once, but repeatedly. Now, of course, no one is perfect. Life gets busy. People have off days. But there's a difference between someone being temporarily busy and someone who's emotionally unavailable. One is human, the other is a pattern, and the pattern is what you need to pay attention to. Is he consistently showing up in your inbox? Is he checking in without you prompting him? Does he keep the connection going even when there's no agenda behind it? That's how you know you're dealing with someone who genuinely values you. On the flip side, if he's inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, that's not something you should try to fix. It's something you should notice, because inconsistency in texting often means inconsistency in feelings, in intentions, and eventually in the relationship itself. If a guy makes you feel anxious about where you stand because he ghosts for days and then drops back in like nothing happened, that's not romantic. It's emotionally draining. And it's usually a preview of how he'll behave later if things get more serious. So the rule here is simple. Watch the pattern, not the individual text. Don't get distracted by charming words if they aren't backed up by regular action. It's easy for someone to send a sweet message once in a while. It's much harder to show up consistently over time. That's the real test of interest. A man who's genuinely thinking about you won't just send a flurry of texts in the beginning and then disappear. He'll keep reaching out because he wants to keep you in his life, not just in his phone for when he's bored. And when you understand this, you stop chasing people who don't deserve your energy. You stop analyzing every little word and instead you step back and ask the bigger question. Is he showing up for me regularly, or is he making me do all the work? That question alone will tell you far more about his mindset than any single text ever could. Another way to read a man's mind through his texting habits is by paying attention to his response time. And let's be clear, this isn't about expecting someone to reply to you in 5 seconds flat. Life happens. People have jobs, responsibilities, and moments when they simply can't pick up their phone. But over time, the way a man responds tells you exactly how much of a priority you are in his life. If you're always left waiting, constantly wondering when or if he's going to reply, that's not just about texting. That's about how important you are in his world. When someone truly values you, you won't constantly be second-guessing their response time. They'll naturally make an effort to reply because connecting with you feels like a part of their day they look forward to, not an obligation. They won't leave you hanging for hours or days without any explanation, and if they do get busy, they'll let you know. A simple, "Hey, crazy day today, but I'll catch up with you later," takes 5 seconds to type, and it shows basic respect. That small gesture says, "I see you. I care that you're there. I'm not disappearing." But when someone constantly takes ages to reply without reason, especially when it's a pattern, it usually means you're not at the top of their list. Maybe they're distracted by other priorities. Maybe they're keeping you as a backup option. Or maybe they like the attention when it suits them, but don't actually have the intention of building something real with you. Whatever the reason, slow response times combined with no explanation usually mean low emotional investment. It's important to pay attention to how you feel when this happens. Do you find yourself staring at your phone, checking it every few minutes, wondering why he's not texting back? Do you feel anxious, like you've done something wrong just because he's taking too long to reply? That's a signal not about you, but about how much uncertainty his behavior is creating. And the right person won't make you feel like you're constantly walking on emotional eggshells. At the same time, it's not just about how fast he replies, but about the effort he makes when he does. Does he pick up the conversation where it left off? Does he ask you questions and show genuine curiosity? Or is he replying out of politeness with one-word answers, just enough to keep you from disappearing, but not enough to actually build a connection? The quality of the reply matters just as much as the timing. Now, let's be honest, sometimes people play games with response times. They think, "I don't want to look too eager, so I'll wait a while before I text back." But here's the thing, someone who's genuinely interested doesn't worry about looking too eager. They're more focused on staying connected than protecting their ego. They don't care about the so-called rules, because they're not trying to win a game. They're trying to get to know you. And if you ever find yourself wondering where you stand with a guy, just look at how consistently he keeps you in his daily life. People make time for what matters to them. It's that simple. You don't need to chase someone or overanalyze the delay between text bubbles. If a man is truly thinking about you, he'll show you. His replies will come with thoughtfulness, with care, and with the kind of consistency that leaves you feeling secure, not stressed. So instead of focusing on the minutes and hours between texts, focus on the overall pattern. Is he making you feel seen? Are you part of his everyday life, or just someone he remembers when he's bored? When you ask yourself those questions, you'll stop guessing, and you'll start knowing. When it comes to texting, effort is everything. It's not about whether he sends long essays or perfectly crafted messages. It's about whether he's genuinely trying to connect with you. You can tell a lot about where a man's mind is just by looking at how much thought he puts into your conversations. Is he asking real questions? Is he paying attention to the things you've shared before? Or is he just sending the same recycled "hey, what's up" or "cool" every time? Effort is one of the clearest indicators of interest, because no one puts in consistent effort for something they don't care about. When a man is into you, he will make the texting dynamic feel alive. He won't just wait for you to do all the work. He'll find ways to keep the conversation going. He'll ask how your day was, not out of politeness, but because he actually wants to know. He'll remember the little details, like that meeting you were nervous about or the weekend plan you mentioned off-handedly, and he'll bring them up again later because those things matter to him. That's effort, And that kind of effort tells you you're not just a convenient distraction. You're someone he wants to build something with. On the other hand, lazy texting is a red flag. When a guy consistently gives you one-word answers, or he responds to your long, thoughtful messages with nothing but a thumbs-up emoji, that's not someone who's emotionally engaged. He might like the attention, or he might enjoy the idea of having you there when it suits him, but he's not actually investing in the connection. And if he's not investing now, chances are he won't suddenly change later. This is why effort is so important to notice early on. It tells you where things are likely headed before you get too attached. Effort also shows up in the way a man handles moments when the conversation slows down. Does he find ways to bring it back to life? Or does he just let the conversation die and disappear for days? A man who cares won't let silence stretch on for too long without checking in. He'll keep the thread between you alive because, for him, staying connected isn't work. It's something he actually enjoys. Now, it's true that some people are naturally better communicators than others. Not every guy is going to be a master texter, and that's okay. But you can still feel the difference between someone who's trying and someone who's just going through the motions. Trying looks like him initiating sometimes, asking follow-up questions, and showing curiosity about you as a person. Going through the motions looks like him replying only when you reach out first, or dropping short, vague answers that leave you doing all the heavy lifting to keep the conversation going. This isn't about expecting perfection. It's about recognizing whether the energy is mutual. Relationships, even in the texting phase, work best when both people are showing up and contributing to the connection. When effort is one-sided, it creates imbalance. You find yourself strategizing, overthinking, wondering how to get him to open up or engage more. And that gets exhausting, but when effort is mutual, everything feels easier. You don't have to wonder if he's interested because his actions make it clear. So the next time you're reading over a text thread, don't just look at the words. Look at the energy behind them. Ask yourself, is he making an effort to build a real connection here? Is he showing genuine curiosity about me? Or is he just keeping the conversation alive at the bare minimum level? The answer to those questions will tell you exactly where his mind is, and more importantly, where his heart is likely to follow. Another layer to understanding a man's mind through texting is paying attention to his tone. The tone of his messages reveals far more than just the words he types. It shows his level of emotional engagement, his comfort with you, and whether he's genuinely interested in building something meaningful. Tone is the emotional fingerprint of a text. It's what turns simple words into feelings you can sense, even from behind a screen. And if you learn to read that, you'll know exactly where you stand without having to ask. Think about the difference between a text that says, "Hey," and one that says, "Hey, how did that presentation go? I bet you crushed it." The first one is neutral, almost robotic. The second one carries warmth, attention to detail, and emotional investment. That's tone. It's not just what he says, it's how he says it. A man who is emotionally connected to you will naturally bring curiosity, playfulness, or care into his messages. He won't sound like he's just ticking a box to keep the conversation going. His texts will have life in them because, for him, staying connected isn't a task, it's a pleasure. Playfulness is one of the easiest tones to spot when someone is truly engaged. If a man feels safe and comfortable with you, he'll often joke around, tease you in a way that feels light and affectionate, or use emojis and GIF to add energy to the conversation. This isn't about being childish, It's about creating a dynamic where both people can relax and be themselves. When a man likes you, he wants the interaction to feel fun and unique. He's not texting you the same way he texts his coworker or his plumber. There's a special tone that comes into play when he's emotionally connected, and you can feel it. On the other hand, if the tone of his texts feels dry, cold, or transactional, that's something you need to notice. Short, flat replies with no emotional color are often a sign that he's either distracted, disinterested, or emotionally unavailable. It doesn't always mean he's being intentionally distant. It might just mean that he's not thinking of the connection as a priority. And if that's the case, it's better to see it early before you invest too much time trying to warm up someone who isn't even present. Sometimes people mistake politeness for interest. They think, well, he's replying, so he must care. But polite doesn't mean engaged. A man can be polite because he's trying to be nice, not because he's genuinely emotionally invested. Emotional investment shows up in the way he chooses his words, the way he asks questions, the way he references things you've told him in past conversations. It shows in the rhythm of the texting, in the back and forth flow that feels natural, not forced. When someone cares, you feel it in the tone because it's consistent, warm, and personal. Another clue is how his tone shifts over time. Does he start out playful and affectionate, but then gradually become distant or distracted? That usually means his feelings are changing, and it's important to recognize that before you start making excuses for his behavior. On the flip side, if his tone remains steady, if he stays engaged, warm, and interested, that's a sign of genuine emotional consistency, and that's rare. It's something worth paying attention to, so when you're reading his texts, listen for the emotion beneath the words. Does the tone make you feel seen, valued, and connected? Or does it make you feel like you're just another notification in his day? The answer isn't in the words alone, it's in the way they make you feel. And when you trust that instinct, you'll stop chasing unclear signals and start responding to the truth that's right in front of you. One of the clearest ways to understand where a man's mind is through texting is by noticing who initiates the conversation. This simple but powerful detail reveals a lot about his level of interest and desire. When a man likes you, he doesn't just wait for you to reach out first. He thinks about you during his day, wonders what you're up to, and reaches out because staying connected feels natural to him. Initiation is his way of saying, without words, "You're on my mind, and I want you to know it." It's easy to get caught in a situation where you're always the one starting the conversation. Maybe you send the first good morning text, ask how his day was, or follow up after a few days of silence. And at first, you might tell yourself it's fine. Maybe he's shy, maybe he's busy, maybe he just doesn't like texting that much. But over time, if you're always the one initiating, it starts to weigh on you. It feels unbalanced. And that's because it is. Communication, even in the early stages, should be mutual. When a man genuinely wants you in his life, he won't leave it all on you to keep the connection going. A man who desires you will find small ways to stay in touch. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's a funny meme, a simple thinking of you, or a random check-in about something you mentioned last week. These little touches are his way of creating moments with you. He's not waiting until he has something important to say. He's reaching out because hearing from you or hearing back from you adds something good to his day. That's desire, not obligation. When a man never initiates, it usually means one of two things. Either he's not that interested, or he's comfortable letting you do all the work. Neither of those scenarios lead to a healthy connection. A relationship that starts with one person chasing and the other barely engaging sets the tone for future imbalance. You end up wondering how to get him to text more, how to keep his attention, or how to make the connection feel two-sided when it clearly isn't.
That's not romantic, it's exhausting. Sometimes people make excuses for why he's not initiating. Maybe he's shy.
Maybe he's unsure of your feelings. And while that might be true in rare cases, consistent lack of initiation usually points to lack of priority. People make time for what matters to them. When a man really likes you, he won't risk losing your attention by staying silent for too long. He'll want to be in your orbit because being close to you feels good to him. He won't need to be reminded to text you or pushed into showing up. On the other hand, when a man is invested, he naturally takes action. He texts first sometimes because he wants to feel close to you. He doesn't let too much time pass without checking in. He values the connection, and his initiation is proof of that. It's not about grand gestures. It's about simple, consistent signals that say, "I'm here, I'm thinking of you, I want to keep this going." So if you find yourself always being the one to break the silence, take a step back and observe what happens. Does he notice the quiet? Does he reach out when you stop filling the space? The answer will tell you exactly how much effort he's willing to make. And when you pay attention to who initiates, you won't just learn about his texting habits, you'll learn about his real intentions. One of the most important things to pay attention to when reading a man's mind through his texting habits is whether the connection is actually progressing. Texting is often how things start, but it's not meant to be the whole relationship. If a man is serious about you, he's going to want to move the connection forward, not just keep you in an endless loop of casual conversations that don't go anywhere. Progression tells you exactly where his mind is, because a man who's thinking long term won't be satisfied with just texting forever. He'll want to take things beyond the screen and into real life. It's easy to get caught up in texting chemistry. You might have great banter, inside jokes, and long late-night conversations. But if weeks go by and nothing changes, no real plans, no steps towards seeing each other, no talk of deepening the connection, that's not a relationship growing, that's a conversation on repeat. And that pattern is a reflection of what's going on in his mind. Sometimes a man keeps texting because it's easy, convenient, and low pressure. It gives him the feeling of connection without requiring real commitment. But when a man truly likes you, he'll naturally want more than just a digital back and forth. He'll want to see you, spend time with you, and build something real. Progression looks like him asking to meet up if you haven't already, or if you've been on a date. It looks like him following up to plan the next one. It looks like conversations that get deeper over time, not just surface level chats about the weather or what you had for lunch, but talks about life, values, and what you both actually want. When a man is invested, the connection will evolve. He won't let it stay stuck in the same shallow routine. He'll push it forward because he sees potential in it, and he knows real connections grow through action, not just conversation. If you've been texting someone for weeks and nothing is progressing, it's worth asking yourself why. Sometimes it's because he enjoys the attention but isn't ready to invest emotionally. Other times it's because he's talking to multiple people and keeping things casual with everyone. And in some cases, it's just about comfort. Texting feels safe and familiar, but stepping into something real requires vulnerability. The right man will take that step because the risk of losing you matters more to him than the risk of putting himself out there. It's also important to pay attention to whether you feel stuck in a texting loop that never turns into real connection. Are you always the one hinting at plans or asking where things are going? Do you feel like you're waiting for him to finally take the lead and move things forward?
When a man is serious, you won't have to guess. He'll make his intentions clear through his actions.
He won't just text for the sake of keeping you around. He'll text because he's using it as a bridge to something more.
Progression is a sign of commitment, even in the smallest ways. It's not just about making plans. It's about the relationship growing in depth, consistency, and emotional closeness. If you feel like things are standing still, they probably are. And if a man is content to let things stay that way indefinitely, that tells you exactly where his mind is. He's not thinking long term, he's thinking in the moment. So when you're trying to understand a man's intentions, don't just focus on what he says in his texts. Look at what's happening over time. Is he moving things forward? Is the connection growing? Or are you stuck in the same place, waiting for something to change? When you stop ignoring the signs and start reading the pattern, you'll see the truth clearly, and you'll know exactly how to respond.